Hi guys, here we are barreling towards the end of 2024. But the good news, and God knows we need enough of that, um, the Congress is looking very tight. There's only 5 seats difference now, and the GOP is scheduled to lose 3 if the Yeti gets his appointments, meaning there'd only be a majority of 2. It's something to hang on to in the dark times. But I think there's more to hang on to, which I'll explain over the next few videos. I'm feeling weirdly optimistic. Now, here's the thing. I think this is an apocryphal story for the US. Now, I think it was 3 nights ago now, South Korea's president, who was doing really badly in the polls and things, thought, I know what I'll do. I'll call a military coup. I'll call it a state of emergency, just like the Yeti's threatening to do, right? And he did. And millions and millions of South Koreans took to the streets. The military stood on the sideline, key point, as far as I understand it. But because millions went to the streets, and then he was pulled up, the president, and given 2 choices: resign or be impeached. And they were talking real impeachment, like impeachment, then jail, right? Not like an American impeachment that can't get over the line because too many people support the criminal on his side of the fence. So he will no doubt resign. But my point is, if all those South Koreans had stayed home and just worried about it, those who are old enough to remember martial law from the late 70s, early 80s, freaked out, understandably. If people had stayed home and went, this is really bad, they would be in a military coup as we speak. But the people sorted it out. And I feel with the US, there's going to be more and more momentum drawing people together. So let's focus on that going forward. Okay. So now, um, in because we know with the Yeti, he loves nepotism and tries to find jobs for all the demon spawn and their spouses. And now he has announced that his son-in-law, via Tiffany, the billionaire Lebanese, Greek Lebanese son-in-law, he's put him in charge of a very strange division called Arabs in the Middle East. I mean, I won't even use time here to say how stupid and provocative that name is, Arabs and the Middle East. Anyway, I don't want to be cut off YouTube, so I'll just leave it there. Now, I just want to have a quick look at the son-in-law. What's his name? Massad Boulos, senior advisor is the position. Let's have a look. Will he have any sway in the Middle East? Let's have a look. Mm. Now, I have to think about this. Now, I know nothing about him, so I'm just going on the cards here. It's telling me he's actually quite a smart guy. This is a bit different from what I expected. Um, so let's take it apart here. So he's keeping his powder dry. This is Boulos. I think he has extensive contacts in the Middle East. Apparently, he's been instrumental in the ceasefire that isn't a ceasefire in Lebanon. But something, let's put it this way, he doesn't want to see his country blown up. Bless, bless. We're talking very low bar here. Now, He wants everyone to get back to normal, whatever normal is for you, and just focus on making money. He's primarily a billionaire. That's what rocks his boat. I think he's in secret negotiations. And here's the false knight. I think maybe it's just my perverse brain, right? But I think he's having secret negotiations with all the different parties in the Middle East. And I think false messaging, he is probably saying to them things like, look, I know my father-in-law is a certifiable idiot and should actually be confined to a safe space, but we've got to deal with him now. That sort of conversation. Then he comes back to Trump with it, saying they are so on board. They think everything you're doing is fantastic. I think he's playing a double game. I also don't think he'll be there that long walking away. I think, unlike the other cast of characters and the palace intrigue that's going on with these auctions of positions, I think he's going to come to a point, I'm not going to put a time frame on it, where he goes, I actually preferred it when I was just making money and parking that money wherever I wanted in the world. So I didn't have to pay tax anywhere like all the other billionaires. And I was having a good time. Why am I staying here with this absolutely confounding imbecile? I think he'll walk down the track. But I don't think he's the worst appointment. Looking at these cards, they're going to be a lot worse than Boulos. We will see. So much for the son-in-law. Um, Now, before I get to the next, one more thing I want to say about that. This will be interesting because Boulos, I'm making an assumption here that he doesn't want to see his own country destroyed, but that pits him directly against Kushner. So it'll be interesting. And Kushner's plan for Gaza, which we know because he's told us, is its prime real estate and good resort material, right? So that's the goal, is to just occupy Gaza and turn it into a money-making scheme for Kushner. So now I wanted to talk here about the wall for a minute because the wall's back on the agenda, right? When in doubt, talk about a wall. Now, guys, I can't be the only one who remembers this. Back in the day, was it George W? One of the Bushes, I'm sure, wanted to build the wall. He's not the first person to think of this. However, it's a massive, massive frontier. It's 2,500 miles or something. It's scheduled to cost $20 million a mile. These things always blow out because they get private contractors who just keep running up the bills. But the real problem is you would have to acquire all those ranches on the border. This is what happened to Bush. Tell me in the comments if I'm remembering this correctly. These ranchers, all of whom use undocumented labor to make their ranches profitable. Let's say most, won't say all, most. So they're not always that happy with this ridiculous stuff too. And also their properties go in and out of both places, etc. But the real issue is they will not give up without a fight. And it's a case of, well, you have to take my cold dead fingers off this rifle because I'm not giving my property to you to build this mythical wall, because they could acquire the property and then not build the wall because the wall won't be built. You know what he'll do? He'll build another 50 feet of wall and he'll just keep photographing it, saying we're building the wall, you know. And I know what I want to look at. How will this impact Texas? Because there's 25% on Mexico, huge trading partner for the US. This is what happens, isn't it? And Texas will be the one taking the financial hit. Let's look at Texas. Deportations. Wall, the whole lot. Let's have a look. How's it going to impact Texas? That's strange. Okay, well, here we go. So what I love about the cards is you do get surprises as a reader too. And I'm sure there's people out there who say, oh, you just make up whatever, but with the cards. No, because if I get the answer I don't want as a person in the cards, if you're a regular viewer, you will have heard me enter something going, oh, hate that. Oh, look at this. So no, I don't do that. I really try and my bias is up front, but the cards aren't. Okay, here we go. The Chariot, very quickly, this is going to impact the Texan economy. They're stuck now. Their hands are tied. They're stuck with this. And we all know in our bones, Texas, despite its reputation and the gung-ho nature of many Texans, it's hovering on the edge of being a purple state, you know. But now their hands are tied. This, I think, represents the law and the laws, plural, around deportation. People are going to be upset. I had to think about this when the lover's card turned up. The lover's card, when it's not romantic, is often about making deals. And I think this card's saying two things. One is there's going to be even more illicit trade over the border now than we have ever seen before. You heard it here first. I think people are going to go underground with this. Okay, so it'll be both moving people and goods because there'll be tariffs on both sides, duh, to keep the economy afloat. It could be that serious for Texas. And people are going to, this is my social media card and people being outraged and wanting to change things. I think this is going to have a lasting impact on Texas in a good way, if you see what I mean. Bad way if you're absolutely affected, but in the bigger picture of showing what is happening. The other thing I feel with this lover's card is we're going to see families split, right? So husbands being deported and wives staying, separation of kids and parents. We're going to see splits in families, and that is very distressing to watch, even for conservatives. Not that they've got a Christian fibre in their bodies, but even they can see it's not a good look. I think the other thing that's missed in all this, guys, and I feel passionately about this, Trump has spent the last 8 years, Hollywood spent the last 70, 80 years. The American narrative generally has said that Mexicans are basically peasants who are on their knees, crawling over broken glass, trying to get across the border. And Mexico doesn't get credit for being a modern, dynamic country. It actually has quite a dynamic economy, one of the bigger trading partners with the US, and produces an enormous number of goods. They do have significant social problems, largely due, thank you, Nixon, for the war on drugs, which gave birth to the cartels, which gave birth then to terrorizing whole towns and communities. But there's plenty of safe places in Mexico. So I think America has always suffered from this bad rap. You know, it's not good. And they're going to see, particularly under Claudia Sheinbaum, that they'll have something to say about this. Now, I want to go briefly into the BRIC countries here. Okay, now most of you would have heard that out of the blue, in a manic rush of blood to the head, the Yeti got his little Yeti paws on Truth Social and said 100% tariffs on the BRICS countries. Now, he obviously doesn't know who the BRICS countries are. It's absolutely mind-bending. Brazil, Russia, India, China were the original BRIC. Then it got more countries now that have been added, that it's a more complicated dynamic. So he's taking on 20 countries without even realizing it. But the original BRIC, that means Russia, which is already under sanctions from the US, he's saying to Putin, I'm going to put 100% tariff on you. I don't think he knew Russia was in it. China, the C in BRIC, said we're a bit confused. Last week it was 10%, now it's 100. Is that 110 or is it 10 here, 100 there? Actually, we don't care what you think it is because we are quietly, and they did this in the last 24 hours, pulled out on 690 billion, let's say 700 billion worth of imports from the US that are now going to be stalled. So all those producers of those products are not going to be sold. So you lose money here, you charge more money here. It's like we've got to a stage where it is beyond my calculations that big business could support this. I absolutely gobsmacked. I hope you've added gobsmacked to your vocabulary there. Now, let's just see. I've got to rush off and do things, but I've been asked a lot, will it be Vance? So when it comes, don't forget, we're all praying for a miracle still. I'm not ruling that out. But I think most people are starting to say, even if Trump gets in, he's not going to do a full term. Be that as it may, we will be keeping a close eye on his physical and mental health. But even if he has a health episode of some significance, JD Vance steps into that role. Let's have a look at the energy around Vance. Let's have a look. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I mean, one shouldn't delight in the anguish of others, but I never said I was a nice person, you know, let's be honest. Okay, I think he's actually a bit thrown by all this. I think he thought Trump wasn't going to make it. He would be in the limelight. Because Trump would lose the election, he could say it was all about him. Now you've got me. I think he had a 4-year plan, and no one was more surprised than JD Vance when the Yeti fell over the line, or stole it, or however you look at it. But he's experiencing loss, big loss. Could be a loss of a popularity context. Does anyone like JD Vance? I don't think even his wife likes him, and she's not a nice person. So here we go. He's wheeling and dealing behind the scenes with this Three of Pentacles. He's actually more naive than we thought because, look, he had an Ivy League education paid for by someone else, i.e. Silicon Valley. Like these guys, they can't open their jaws without 6 silver spoons falling out, even if they started on the other side of the tracks. They are so drenched in privilege that they have no idea how mere mortals work. But he's feeling naive. This is a feeling sort of card. And he realizes he's been dealt the rotten fish. I think he might come up with something. Now, tarot's not good with timing. This could be next week or it could be in 3 years' time. I don't know. But what I can tell you I see is he's looking for a way out, the stained glass windows symbolizing a problem to be solved. This might actually impact on his health. We sort of think of him as the young thing, at least from where I'm sitting. He could have a bit of a health crisis. So we'll see. All right, then. So just winding up here, he would at best be a fill-in. They would then have to nominate a new leader. Now, we all witness the 15 rounds circus of trying to get a Speaker of the House. Can you imagine? So have to talk soon about the cannibalistic practices that are going on in the GOP. So guys, you take care and really, really, really look after yourself and talk to me in the comments. I love your comments, right? So ciao for now. Toodaloo. Don't forget, join Blue Sky if you haven't. You don't even have to use it. Just subscribe. Costs nothing. Just subscribe. Bye.